Good afternoon. This is Brian Dickinson from the California Student Aid Commission, and this is a January 24th webinar on completing the 2013-14 California DREAM Act application. Now, if you're not hearing my voice, then you won't hear this, but there is information on the screen on how people can call in, and we usually don't have time to individually assist people in logging in, so we throw up that screen in the hopes that they will actually be able to set themselves up. So we will be talking about the California DREAM Act application. The first thing I wanted to say about this is just the newness of this whole process. This is a new application for a new group of students to receive financial aid at many campuses who have not had experience with this student population receiving student financial aid. And so it's new for us, the students and the colleges, and of course so many high schools and other advisors working with students to assist them in applying. And I say all that because if we get something wrong, or if you have a question, please make use of the chat box there. Now, there's two boxes. One says Q&A, and the other says chat. And we prefer that you ask questions in the chat so that in one glance on this end we can look in and see that there's a question and we can answer questions as we go along. Your questions are very critical to the success not only of this webinar, but of the overall application and DREAM Act in order to make sure that we serve these students. So we appreciate your input. And if you hear me talking to somebody other than you today, it's Despina Kostopoulos, who's the statewide Cash for College coordinator, and we might briefly chat on what should I say or what should I do, or there's a question. So don't be distracted. So first of all, if you need help on the DREAM Act application, we would ask that the students call one number and that schools and advisors call a different number. The efficiency of supplying an advisor or a campus person with the information is better than trying to reach every single student individually. So we'll leverage this information through you. But if students have questions on their application or the process, they can call that student name number that you see on the screen there. Some of these questions you might say, well, we know, don't we? But who is this application for, and what assistance is available? How do you access the application? And then I'll go through the application itself. This is not going to be one of those tedious line by line by line walkthroughs through the application. It's more going to be an overview pointing out some of the critical bits of information and then why that information is necessary. And then we'll go through the signature process, which is it's a little clunky, but it's doable. And then, again, where we get instructions and help. So when we are done with this webinar, it's being recorded, we will be posting it out on the Cash for College website and on our Cal Grant DREAM Act page so that you can watch again and again. Too bad you can't see me, but you can hear my wonderful voice. Sorry. Okay, go back to 2001 when AB 540 was passed, okay? The legislature wanted legislation that would specifically allow, allow undocumented students to receive some state benefits. And so they wrote their legislation in a way so that it doesn't really specifically say this is for undocumented persons. It just says those persons that meet the requirements of AB 540 can pay the resident fee at the public colleges and universities. And so that criteria is that the student must have attended a California high school for 3 full years. They must have graduated from a California high school. They must make use of these benefits here in California. And then, as a nod to the fact that they were setting this up so that undocumented students could be served, they required the signing of an affidavit by the student, which says that if they're without lawful immigration status, that they will file an application to legalize their status as soon as they are able to. And what the campuses do with this affidavit is put it in the student file, and it basically, once they have it, it stays in there. Public schools have been doing this since 2001. Now that Cal Grants will be available to Dreamers, to AB 540 students, we'll have private schools gathering the same information. They will collect the affidavit and put it in the file. It's important to understand who the AB 540 student population is, because the next components of the DREAM Act, the California DREAM Act, AB 130 and AB 131, say, paraphrasing the language in the legislation, is that AB 540 students can now get financial aid. So AB 130 says AB 540 students can now receive private scholarships administrated by public colleges and universities. Previously, they could not do this. If a private donor wanted to give money to undocumented students, they had to find the student themselves and put it in their hands, so to speak, without passing through the college. The value of having the college participate is they can verify a lot of things. For example, if the scholarship is for chemistry majors in their 3rd year who have a 3.00 GPA or higher, the campus can do that work, and it makes it much easier to get the money into the right hands. So this was a significant part of the DREAM Act. AB 131 is the one that actually gives public financial aid to Dreamers or AB 540 students. So they'll be able to receive and have received already, since the application first opened for the 12-13 year, the UC grant at the University of California, the State University grant at the CSU, the Board of Governors fee waiver at community colleges, and then some other student assistant programs such as the EOP at the CSU and EOP and S at the community colleges. The Cal Grant portion of this, which is allowed by AB 131, kicks in for the 13-14 year. So the students completing the application now by March 2nd, which is the filing deadline for Cal Grants, to be used in the fall of 2013. And since I mentioned March 2nd, I should be clear that state law says that if a filing deadline falls on a non-business day, like Saturday, Sunday, or holiday, the deadline is extended to the next business day. So the actual deadline for Cal Grants this year is March 4th, which is a Monday. So I might make a mistake and say March 2nd, but this year we mean March 4th. So if you have any questions, be sure to just use the chat box rather than the question and answer box. You just type in your question, and then I'll look up on the screen and say whatever I have to say. So how do we get to this California DREAM Act application? More than a year ago, about 16 months ago, we were asked by some of the educational segments that you see in the CSU community colleges. Could you create a statewide application to allow this student population to complete a single application to apply for the benefits at all the colleges and to get Cal grants? And it seemed so obvious that to someone do that, and so we took on the chore of doing that. We got our first application up in April of 2012, and now the 13-14 year application is now open online. And so to get there, you can go to the CSAC main web page at csac.ca.gov, and then there's a California DREAM Act button there. Clicking on that will get you to the portal into the DREAM Act application. So that address is www.caldreamact.org. And this application is live right now. Let's be honest here. We had some bugs. This was quite an undertaking, and we had some load issues. For those of you who are computer savvy, you'll realize that when you create an application or process online, you can test it for certain conditions, but we didn't test it enough to when we were getting 2,000 or 3,000 students logging in at the same time. So we went back into the application and made some changes so that it could handle the load. Okay? So on this caldreamact.org page, you'll notice that it is a very nice-looking application, beautiful pastel colors. I like the green buttons. But those three green buttons are what drives this page. The bottom left-hand button is for a student starting a brand-new application who has never completed another DREAM Act application. So if they had an application for 2012-13, they don't use this button. This is for the new people. The button on the left side that says Retrieve My Application, that's the button for persons who had an application last year. So we will go find their information we already have to establish a new application for them. But it's also for those students who need to log in to an application that they either started and didn't complete, or started and completed, but now they just have to go in and add some additional information. For example, they need to add a college to receive the information, or maybe their parents are tax filers and they filed taxes and now they have the final numbers from their 1040 forms. So that middle button, that's the button that parents use to sign the application. Now, we had to set up a signature process so that the parents, if they were remote, in other words, not standing or sitting right next to the student when they completed the application, if they were remote, they could complete the signature. So that's why when we get in and show you that it's not just student sign, parent sign, and done. We set it up so that the parents can sign separately. So since this is a PowerPoint screen, I could click anywhere, but we would start a new application by clicking on that lower left-hand button. The first thing we try to do in this application is to make sure the student completes the correct application. Most of you, I'm sure, know that there's a free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA, and Dreamers, AB 540 eligible students will usually not be completing that application, okay? So to make sure that they knew what the AB 540 criteria were, we put them on this page so that they can correctly choose the DREAM Act application. If they need some more information, they could click on that bottom right-hand button, the blue one, and that just goes more into depth about who should file which application. and then we put a link in the middle there to, if they